for me. So I want you to understand exactly what is going on, and then we can get started. If you're watching me, then we are doing this on two platforms currently. So we are actually on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. I'm hoping that in a future live stream, I can be able to also do this on TikTok, but I need to research on how to be able to do that. But in the meantime, if you're joining in and you are already on the stream, please let me know where you're watching from, and we can be able to have a small discussion. Hopefully, we can be able to have a lengthy discussion as well, and we can look at different things that are going on, especially in our country today, and what your feelings are about the same. So, allow me just in the very first seconds, what I just want to do right now is to confirm first on the different platforms that we are live. All I'm just doing is checking on my YouTube channel. Good. So we have two people already on YouTube and on Facebook. It should be showing live, so just need to go and check that we are currently live just on the page. 1 second, and we should be on. Awesome. This is good. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. So just give me 1 second, just one thing that I need to change here, and we are good. So here we are. Okay, good. Today is the 20th of March. Of course, you know the date, but um, today was officially basically created and made to be a holiday, an unofficial holiday. And the way it has happened is not just in Kenya. I know it happened in South Africa as well. I'm trying to think of there are two other places here in Africa that countries have just decided today is the official protest day. But the idea behind it and the spirit behind it, especially here in Kenya, is for it to be a protest against the current government and all the things that are happening in the country, and as well to just, you know, almost raise a middle finger to the current government. And the opposition that has been in place has been ramping up towards this day, as well as advertising on all different places that today is a day when they'll actually come up and say, you know, enough is enough. And honestly, we have had that conversation before with the different uh, in different governments. This is not the first time that the opposition has stood up and then said, you know what, we are tired of what is going on with the government and we want change. Every 5 years, every 5 years in Kenya, we go to the polls. But honestly, since 2013, since 2013, we have constantly been in a political mood as a nation and as a people. And the main reason for this is every election that we've had since 2007 has been contested by the other party that has not won the election. And of course, I don't want to try and say that elections have been free or they haven't been. That's for the courts to decide. But the point here is this: in 2007 there was a contestation and it was really bad, especially for our country, because so many people lost their lives because of the fracas. In 2013, uh, in 2013 we had another election that was contested in 2017, We had another election that was contested in 2018. We had what is commonly known as a handshake. And now in 2022, we had another election in our country. And after that, expectedly, of course, there was another contestation as well. And so today is a day that is supposed to be to get our country back. That's what the opposition wants us to hear. And according to the government of the day, what is there to fight about? We need to get to work. And we have been working. That's according to the current government of the day. And so, at the middle of all this, at the center of all this, is you and I. We don't have political seats. We don't have political affiliations today. We are business people. We are people who have been employed in different places and we are supposed to be at work. And so there are people who, understandably, even in their offices, told their staff, don't come in today because we have no idea what's going to happen. And there are those who've actually gone to work today and by bad luck, they have still been tear gassed. And there are people who they need to work every single day in order to make sure, oh my goodness. Uh-huh. And there I'm talking here so passionately. Let's see. No, that's not. How about now? But I thought there would be audio. Let me check. So you can hear me, but the audio is bad. Okay, on Facebook I can't even hear myself. So let me. Can you hear me now? I hope so. So you can hear me, but the audio. But no, no, no. The audio is good. Okay. So on Facebook is where the audio may be non-existent. Let me just check. But it should be fine because I can actually see whether. Okay. Let me go on. So now with. Okay. Let me increase the volume and then we can go on. Let me just increase the volume here. Okay. Let me put it at that. So, okay. So, okay, I've seen what the issue is. Let me just put it like that. So now we should be good now. I hope now the audio is good. I can't get rid of the echo right now because, okay, good. So now what's happening is you and I are stuck in the middle. And the problem is, and I want to know your comments as well. So with the government and the opposition fighting right now, typically what happens is no work is actually done. That's the sad bit. Anytime that you will see the government and the opposition fighting any day, no work is done. Today, 20th of March, is a wasted day that should have been a productive business day. You will see in the news so many things about what was happening in this area, what was happening in that area. And people think that this is actually good that this is happening. While the truth of the matter is, and this is what I personally truly believe, the truth of the matter is the issues in this country can be sorted out by just simply using parliament. That's the easiest way to actually go about it. But then we are in a state where once the election was done, and believe me, some of these things they just bottle up. Once the election was done, the government that had gotten into place went ahead and worked on getting even more people in different ways, I don't know how, getting different people to join their camp instead of actually allowing the democratically elected leader to do his job in the legislature. Now, we can't completely just blame the executive for this because, of course, for them, the objective is to have as much power as possible. But then the people that we elected in different positions, no matter the party that you were elected with, if you were elected with a party that is in the opposition, it's your job to do what the opposition does, to oppose what the government is doing and to keep the government in check. Any government that doesn't have checks and balances will never do exactly what it's supposed to do for its citizens. This is the biggest danger that we have. Number one, when we have an executive that can be able to buy other arms of government, then we as a citizenry are in trouble. The truth is, the executive is supposed to be our representative at that high level of the things that we are hoping for this country. But if we are just allowing them to do as they please in that position of power, then we will suffer at the end of the day. And Marco says, I'm currently in diaspora. Kenyans need to realize that inflation and particularly cost of living has risen everywhere, not just in Kenya, mostly food prices. Very true. And this is what we can do as a nation in order to just be at a better position. Number one, it's doing this. It's making sure that every move that is made by the executive is analyzed and questioned. That is really important. Everything that the government is doing must be analyzed and questioned because they are there, first of all, to represent you and me. Whether or not you voted for them, the people that are currently seated in those positions are seated there representing you and me. That's the whole point of having democracy. That's the whole point of having elections. If the person that is seated on that particular seat does not represent the interests of the people who are put him there, then we need to stand up and say, whatever you're doing is wrong. We need change in this particular place. And hopefully you can be able to see that all the decisions that the government is going to make will affect you and me directly every single day. Every single day. Because when the price of petrol goes up in this country, that means that the profit that a matatu owner was supposed to make on that particular day is going to go down. Now, bear with me as I go with you on this. Now, that also means that the people he has employed who are making money there will be making less. Why? Because the price of petrol has gone up. Because the consumption of that vehicle is actually going to go up as well as it ages. That should be obvious. But if I was buying something at 100, fuel at 100, and now I need to buy it at 120, that 20 shillings is eating into my profit. But then this is what happens, and this is simple economics for you and me. This is what happens. When the price of petrol goes up, the owner of that particular matatu will not accept to reduce the amount of money that they make in a day. So what do? They pass it on to the next person on that chain. And that next person is you and me, who is a passenger on that particular vehicle. So what happens is, if on your route you are paying 50 shillings, if the price has gone up by 20 shillings, you'll see on your route it's now 60, it's now 70. So what does that do? That now strains your particular income that you are spending on transport to and fro from work every single time. And when that happens, then all you are hoping for is that your income can increase, but that's not happening. Why isn't that happening? Is because we are currently in a downward trend in our economy. So all your expenses are going up, but your income is not. And so when the government does anything or says anything, you should be listening, because whatever they are doing is directly affecting your pocket, whether you like it or not, whether you voted for them or not. Whatever they are doing is affecting you. That's one thing that you need to realize. And so inflation hits you, the high cost of price or of things hits you more than it would have what they report in the normal reports. When they say, oh, the economy has gone up by 5% or the inflation has gone up by 8%, in truth, the real effect on your pocket is much higher. Because what they do not account for is the fact that all these things have a trickle down effect to your pocket. Second example, if you have palm oil or whatever oil, vegetable oil, and you are importing it, the exchange rate for the dollar and Kenya shilling has been deteriorating. It's now at around 140. A friend of mine told me he had to look for dollars and get them at 150. And so, if the cost of the raw material is going up, then the price of the final product has to go up, because all these people that are in the chain are all going to pass it to the final person. And because you and I are mostly consumers, we cannot pass this to the next person. There's no one to pass it to. All these indirect taxes all come to you at the end of the day. And so that's the reason you need to realize that anything that the government does, any statement that the government makes, affects you directly. And you need to be awake to that fact. And so it's important to see that if the politics of the day is leaning in one direction, where are you yourself? How is your business doing today? That's the biggest question I have for you. How is your business doing today? Because if you have a business, if you're importing things, it's becoming harder to import. It's becoming more expensive to import. There are many more other taxes that are being added on imports. And there is very little you can do as an individual, but when you come together, you can be able to make change happen. The way the opposition is phrasing this, it's we need to overthrow the government in order for things to move. Well, that may be their own way of thinking. Look at this. Well, that may be their own way of thinking. In their minds, it makes sense. But what does that mean for you and me? What does it mean to get rid of the current government that is in place? That means that in a best case scenario, that means that you have a president who resigns and a government which lets go because they no longer have the mandate of the people, and then they go out and seek a fresh mandate, and the opposition does the same, and the next election that happens, people say it is fair. That's best case scenario. That you and I both know is not going to happen. There is no government, especially here in Africa, which will stand and say, oh, you guys want us to resign. We resign. Not after all they have put in, not after all the resources they have put in, because the minimum that this particular government has spent to just get into power is over 10 billion Kenya shillings. And this is money that was spent on logistics, on whatever it is they needed to win the elections. And it makes no sense to invest into something and not get your money back. Because believe me, even politics is a business. That's the truth. Politics is a business. And they are in business. So now you have to ask yourself, so now what do I do for my own business? What do I actually do for my business so that I can be able to survive? And so now the biggest problem we have right now is that instead of using the path of least obstruction, which would be going from parliament and speaking out in parliament and actually saying, this is what we are looking for, they decide we need to go on the streets. And remember, this is the same thing that he did in 2017 all the way to 2018. Every single Monday until in March, by the way, it's actually in March that it happened in 2018 when they had the famous handshake. The current president has said there is no handshake happening, first of all, because this is the same script that the opposition leader used in 2017 to force the government to a sitting table where they agreed, now let us work together. But now the bigger problem for me is this. If the opposition and the government get into bed together, which this current president has said is not going to happen, but if that were to happen, then we have no one to talk about the things that the government is doing that are wrong. If there is any corruption issue, there is no one in the opposition to even tell the citizens about it. Because believe me, this is something that I've noticed as well with the current opposition leader, is that he knows everything that's going on. And he knows the power that he wields. He knows he has people behind him. While it is his constitutional right to actually declare the things that he's declaring, the effect that it is having and the effect that it will have on the economy, he knows what it's going to do. He knows it's going to cripple the economy. But that is his objective. He wants that as he continues to do this, he will be able to force the government to a negotiating table. Now, Marco is asking a good question, but the thing is, this would take the country to a place where it has never gone before. The last time he was in jail was in 1982 and never again. And right now, the problem is he enjoys such a fanatical following, and let's just call it a faithful following, that would never try, the government would never resort to that because they know his schemes, they know how he works. My apologies, the lights have just gone off, so just listen to the audio as we get the video back on. So now the thing that is happening is this. If you look at where your business is at the moment, you're stuck in waiting on what the government would do, and not just so as a business person, this is a question that you need to ask yourself. What are you going to do to preserve your business? What are you going to do in order to succeed in an environment like this? And for so many people, the solution is honestly not to do business in a country like this. That's a sad statement to even say out loud. That you'd get to a point where you decide Kenya is not a country that I want to invest in. And this in itself is the biggest shame we can ever get to, because this country employs so many people who are dependent on the different industries that are there in this country. And the biggest issue that we have is that you cannot do business without peace in a country. The only people who do good business in a bad country or in a war-torn country are people who supply arms. Those are the only people who do well in such an economy. Kenya is currently at the center of Kenya is at the center of a continent that is looking at it to succeed. But what do? We keep on doing the same thing over and over again. Any election that we have, there is no rest as to now let's concentrate on building the country for the next 5 years. It's this is the election, it is done, and then let's get into now we are preparing to bring down this government that has been elected, and we are going to talk about it for the next 5 years. That is a very sad state of affairs, my friends. It's a very sad state of affairs. Because if you, hi Digital Nomad, and thank you for joining us. If you look at this country, a few years ago, we used to be ahead of Rwanda. We used to be ahead of Ethiopia. We used to be ahead of Eritrea. But the truth is, all those countries have left us behind. All those three countries that I just mentioned, they've left us behind for various reasons. But here, as a country, all we are concentrating on is, oh, I want to be in political position. But the truth of the matter is, all these politicians, they don't care about that political position. They don't care about the power of that political position. It's not that they have a better thing that they want to do once they get into power. It's just, I want to benefit alone. That's exactly what these politicians do. Whether the ones who are in government right now or the ones who are in opposition right now, they are all the same. They are all the same. They all think and operate the same way. So now what that does is, if you have a business that is outside of Eastern Africa, you look at what is going on in the space and you have a choice. Should I put my business in Kenya? Should I put my business in Uganda? Should I take my business to Tanzania? That is the same thing that happened with Dangote when he wanted to put a cement factory in Kenya. He came into the country, he was frustrated by politicians, and then he took his factory to another country. And then we are there just saying, oh, my person is in power, not understanding this. These people, both in the opposition and in the government, they already have running businesses. They already have money from here to Timbuktu. They don't need those positions for the same reasons that we ourselves would need a functioning government, a functioning opposition, a functioning parliament, and a functioning judiciary. These three organizations, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, we were always taught these are the three arms of government. But in our country, honestly, they don't work. They simply don't work. If you take a court case today, you can stay there for 6 years, 10 years. People die, witnesses die before they even get the chance to get in and get a sentencing. If you go into parliament today, the biggest problem I have with parliament today, whatever the executive will bring, they will approve. And yet their work is to check the government, check the executive on behalf of the people. These 350 people that we have put in parliament, their mandate is simple. Take care of the interests of the people. But what happens is, you get in there, even as good as they come, with even preachers going in, even with our friend Muhammad Ali going in, all these people get into that place, and then after that, silence. So now the trick has become, the trope has become that you make a lot of noise outside, and then they let you in. Once you get in, you forget that you were ever outside. You forget about all the people that you left outside. All of that is forgotten. And like Ngugi wa Thiong'o says, now it's your turn to eat. So you sit down, fold your sleeves, and then now start eating. Forgetting that just some time back, you were the one who was saying, the government is like this, the government is like that, they need to change. And that is one of the things that, honestly, if you look at it, it makes no sense if you're a good person in this country to try and get into politics, because it will spoil you. If you ever had a good name outside, it will be gone. Because the freedom to actually speak things as they are goes away, because it is the piper who dictates the tune. Whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. And so even people that you used to believe in, they are the saviors. These are the guys who are supposed to change things. Give them the keys to your city and you will see. Nothing happens. Nothing good happens. And so today, people are protesting in different parts of the country, saying things are going wrong, which is true. But the people who are asking them to go on the streets are not telling them to go there for their own good. They are going there so that the person at the top benefits. Prove me wrong. 2018, when that handshake was done, what positive outcome did that have on our economy? What new thing sprouted up because of that? Tell me, I'm waiting. Nothing. Truth of the matter is, the people who got in there, they're the people who benefited. The people who were able to get those contracts, there are a few people here and there, they control the economy. They control what you see in the media. They are the guys who will tell you this is the direction you need to go. But up till today, there's nothing that you can actually be able to sit down and say, this is the positive benefit of that handshake that happened in 2018. There isn't. Sorry if I missed any of your comments, guys. Manny says, opening our minds. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. The first step in lowering the cost of living will be producing enough food to feed the nation. Digital nomad, this is very true. But listen to this. When the previous government, which is half of the current government anyway, when the previous government wanted to do this project called the Galana project, the irrigation project, they took a number of people all the way to Israel and trained them. And the purpose of the training that they were going to get there is to learn how Israel, which is in the middle of a desert, is able to produce enough food to sustain its people. And so there were people who were taken to Israel specifically for that, to be trained on that. And this is common knowledge. It's really public knowledge, but some people don't even know about it. So this happened, and then after they had finished their training, they came back to Kenya, but the government did not employ them in the positions that they had been trained for. And that's one of the main reasons why that particular project was a cash cow for the government, because they wasted a lot of money in it. They spent a lot of money taking these people to get trained in Israel. And when they came back, there was nothing to do. There was no work available for them to do. And so these people who had been trained by the Kenyan government, note, they had been trained using Kenyan money. Your money, my money. Was used to train these people. But then what happened is, most of these people are in other countries working with the knowledge they were paid for by your tax dollars. That's sad. And the fact is, then that means that there's someone who has an ulterior motive that this country does not depend on itself for food. Think about that for a second. If this country, if you and I are unable to sustain if our agriculture work and efforts are unable to sustain the demand, then that means there is someone who's benefiting from us not being able to sustain ourselves. Let me take this a step further for you. If we are unable to sustain ourselves by our subsistence farming, by all the things that we do, then that means that we have to import in order to feed the mouths that are in this country, all 50 million plus of them. Because if people are not fed, then there is a problem there. So that means that if we don't have enough food here, and the Ministry of Agriculture knows exactly how much food is available in this country. And so what do? By the time they are announcing that we need food to be imported into the country, already there is a ship in Mombasa with the food that they are saying we need to import. My friend, that math is not mathing. There is no way a ship can come all the way from Mexico or from Brazil or wherever country it was coming from, and by the time I'm talking saying we need food, that food is already there. This is not MCU. Someone had the inside knowledge, knowing exactly what was going to be said. Someone knew that a declaration was going to be made, and that other person knew where exactly they wanted to get it from. And so there are so many people on that particular chain who, for a fact, must be eating something, because that doesn't happen and no one is benefiting. By the time that ship is docked and cleared, there is so much of greasing of the wheel that is happening in order for that to happen. Prove me wrong. And so there's someone who's directly benefiting from the fact that this country's demand for food is higher than its own supply for food. That's just that first part. But secondly, every single time we produce anything, we are told we do not have the capacity to turn it into a finished product. Do you know what that means? It means that we produce green tea, we produce purple tea. My friend actually has that business in Kirinyaga County. Producing it, but never getting the opportunity of turning it into final tea that can be able to go out of the country at a very good price. And that money kept in circulation here. We are producing oil in Turkana, but then what do? Transport crude oil all the way to Mombasa, export crude oil, import finished oil. Are you saying we do not have the capacity, we do not have the expertise, we do not have the brains to turn our raw materials into finished goods? Math is not mathing. There is someone who directly benefits from systems not working in the country. Because just look at it from a very rational point of view. If you're able to produce tea, you can set up a tea factory, and with that tea factory, be able to create brands of tea that you're able to export. Because what happens is in this market, the tea market, the coffee market, the oil market right now, we remain with less than 1% of the total money in that value chain. When in actual sense, if we are able to vertically integrate the whole thing right in this country, we don't need aid. We don't need the West or the East to tell us what to do. We don't need any of them to give us money to do anything. We can be self-sufficient. But understand this, there is someone who benefits from the chaos that is going on. In everything, if you're looking at anything, just know this, someone is benefiting from the way things are. That's the way things are, the way they are. And Marco asked this question, what do you think Ruto's next move will be? The ball is in his camp, doing nothing will be an action too. He has to do something. First of all, the president, our current president, and the current opposition leader, you should understand, are very good friends. They are very good friends off camera. They'll hate each other when the lights are turned on. But this is what I think he should do. And it has very little to do with the actual conversation with Raila, because that one they can have any day. Uhuru did the same with Raila in 2018. If they were to have any conversations, they can have conversations. But this is what I think he should do. Number one is making sure that the police do not escalate the violence. This, I think, is where so many horrible things happen. Just this morning, there were videos of people being gunned down by policemen while protesting. Now, it is quite sad that the truth of the matter is lives will have been lost by the end of today. But this is the one thing that the government can be able to do in order to win the minds and hearts of people. Do not allow policemen to kill people. Let them, if they want to protest, go in an orderly fashion wherever they need to go, not causing violence anywhere. Because you can actually be able to station policemen well enough for people to be able to move. And then only the people who are violent should be dealt with. Don't go for the innocent people. Don't go kicking around people just because they're exercising their right to protest. Secondly, he needs to actually speak to people, not the rhetoric that's been there, especially from the government today, has been our only solution right now is the only thing we can be able to do is prayer. Well, believe me, I love prayer. But if you're a government in place, you have been put to work, and you cannot hide behind prayer. Prayer is not a substitute for work. And it pains me that that is the kind of picture that is being put across. That we are concentrating on prayer, that God will provide a solution, so we are seated doing nothing because God will provide a solution. We need to be wise in the way that we speak. Because if the president is attempting to cozy up to Christian leaders, he must of essence then use the word the way it is supposed to be used. Not what he's attempting to say is a word. The truth of the matter is, even if whatever it is, there needs to be a concrete solution that will not involve the loss of life, that does not hide behind Christianity as a religion, that actually provides a solution for the normal Kenyan. Because I think, and this is my view, I think the, the normal man has just a few wants, not very many, just a few wants here and there. One is the work that you do actually gets a fair pay. That, I think, is one of the biggest hopes of any person, any laborer. If I work, I should get paid for the work that I do. Number two, the government should provide an environment that will enable me and you be able to do the things that we need to do without any issues. It needs to be easier for foreigners to come in and invest in this economy. It needs to be easier for investments to come into Kenya. It needs to be easier for movies to be shot in Africa, in this country of ours. Why is it that a story about a Kenyan man who went to school is actually shot in South Africa? It needs to be easier for those investments to come into Kenya. And number three, people need to operate from a state of safety. There is so much fear of the opposition, fear of other tribes, fear of the police, fear of the government, fear of KRA, fear of everything. Many business people are operating from a point of, I have no idea what the government is going to do to my business. That is not the way to take this country forward. And if by any chance the government still wants to fulfill Vision 2030, then we must, of essence, get off our asses and get to work. Because we cannot still be doing the same politics we were doing over 10 years ago, over 15 years ago, and expect that this country is going to move forward. We cannot allow that every single week is crippled because now Tuesday is a new Monday. And then on Friday, we are expecting another protest on Monday, all in the hope that some people will benefit out of this. Because, believe me, the state or the cost of living will not go down just because the opposition and the government are in cahoots. It will not. And so the government has to be clear, and the government has to be frank with us and just do their damn jobs. Just show up and do your job. When you're given that mandate, whether you're an MP, whether you're an MCA, or you're your woman representative, which for the life of me, I have not seen a woman rep do anything recently. But all these positions that you have been given, you need to actually do the job you were given. All these other things are sideshows. All these other things are sideshows. If you're given the work to represent your ward, the people in your ward should know you, should see you consistently, should go into the county assembly and make laws that help the 3,000 people who voted for you. That should be your job. That is what you should be waking up to do every single day. Whether you are in the current government or in opposition does not matter. The people who put you in that position, The people who elected you, your competitors who you ran against, those are the people you're answerable to at the end of the day, not your party leader. You're answerable to us, the people who spent 5-6 hours on the lines on election day to get you that job. And then you get into that job, and all you can hear is your boss in the party and not your boss on the ground. The bigger issue we have now is people don't know that we can remove these people from power. And even the laws that have been put there for recalling someone, they're ridiculously wordy. And so people don't even waste their time. Because this is a risk as a leader that you run. You will bulldoze your way every single day. You'll say, this is what you want, this is what you want, this is what you want. Throwing aside all the sons and daughters of Wanjiku on the side. And then at the end of the day, once you get that position, you have no one to rule over. And that is sad. That is deeply, deeply sad. Digital Nomad says, I have been in India for the last 3.5 years, and I have seen the way they are self-reliant in many ways. And I hope we can do the same here. I hope we can do the same here. Because if you look at it keenly, this country just needs for the government to do its work, and that's it. People are not even asking for heaven and earth from our politicians. In fact, we ask for the bare minimum for them to just show up to work, for them to just do their duties. That's all people have asked for. That's it. And then we'll handle the rest. All of us will just handle the rest. We'll deal with our things. We'll make sure that things are going the right way they should be going. We don't really need the government. All we just need to do is they make sure the things they said they would do, they actually do. And stop stealing our money. Is that too hard to ask for the government to stop stealing our money? We have a 30% tax rate. That means that if you're working for 30 days, for 9 days, you're working for the government. Each of us, government employee. And then even in the 21 days remaining where we try and work for ourselves, still, there's VAT, there's excise duty, there's what. There's so much that we don't even have. And so we are trying as best we can to be able to just afford this life that we have. That's all we want to do. Just be able to afford the life that we have. And so all we are asking the government to do is just simple. Just do your work. That's all we are asking from the government. Just do your work. Because when you've done your work, then everything moves. Things move. But people are stuck. People are stuck. All they want is, I want to be the one ordering people around. I want them to know how Makmende I am. Doesn't move us in any way. If you ask me, today shouldn't have happened. Not in the way that it has, or what you'll hear in the 7 and the 9 p.m. news. It shouldn't have happened like that. Don't be lied to that these two people cannot sit down and people do their work. If there's actually something wrong happening in this country, then the opposition leader knows. And he should be able to just go out and tell us ABCD is what is happening. Let the government stand up and say that is not what is happening, this is what is happening. But in the meantime, what is going on? We are going on with our lives. Take the cost of petrol down. Because if you set up a factory right here in Kenya, we can be able to subsidize the cost of petrol. Make sure that our economy is working so that we can have more exports. If we have more exports and we are making more money, because listen, let me give you the way. Let me give you the way we can be able to get our tax, our USD rate better. Now, the main reason why the USD rate is going the way it is because we import more than we export. That is a simple explanation. Now, in order to combat this, all we just need to do is export more and export higher value. So what does that come back to? If we are producing something, let's produce until the final product. There is no reason why it should be called English tea, and it's Kenyan tea. Our tea leaves going to the UK and then going to a factory there and then being called English tea. Was it Pakistan that declared Kenyan tea an essential commodity? Listen to that. So all we just need to do, set up factories here. If you want to concentrate on English tea, you can actually do it. If you want to concentrate on Pakistani tea, you can actually do it. We have coffee in this country. In fact, I saw a very heartwarming story of this lady who got an investment of from Shark Tank recently. And she's a young lady from Kenya. But what will happen to that? Let me not say too much. But then, instead of us having her take those coffee beans elsewhere to be able to become grade 1 or wherever it is, let's set up a coffee factory. Let's show people how to roast. Let's export roasted coffee beans. Let's actually create Kenyan brands that we can export outside, that can actually be used in our local cafes. Let's do that at scale so that when we are exporting, these people will most likely pay us in foreign currency. And when they pay us in foreign currency, the supply of foreign currency goes up, and so our shilling becomes stronger. It's just that simple. I have no idea why economists have not thought of these things. They have. But the point I'm trying to point across is this. There's someone who benefits from the chaos. And so the bigger thing for us, the major thing for us is, can we be able to stand our businesses in the chaos itself, number one. And number two, can we be able to thrive to a point that we get rid of the chaos? And number three, can we be able to remove the chaos and have a system that works? That, I believe, is the biggest assignment you can ever give yourself. I want to get rid of the chaos in my country. And for me, even though Videos like this are far between, but there's a video I did before the elections that I told you clearly, when this government is messing up, I will stand up and I will tell you. Because that is my responsibility as a citizen of this country. You may agree with the things I've said. You may disagree with the things I've said. That's okay. For you, put out your views out there. Let's listen to how you hope this country will change. Because the way it is not the way it should be. We can both agree on that. Things are not going the way they should be, and so things need to change. So that is it for this particular video, and I'm glad I was able to actually just go live today on YouTube. It's been a long while before I was able to do this. My guys on Facebook, I know this is the first time you're seeing a live stream on this particular page, but let's hope we can do that again. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow me. Also, share this video with someone who you think this information may be good for. And if you have access to your elected leader, please tell them to do their job. We are watching.